Hi everybody, my name is Peter Tai, and it actually wasn't until I started doing this video and this testimony that I realized all the frinkles, all of the sunspots and wrinkles that I have. Must be because I'm aging. But anyways, back to the testimony. I've been attending Chinese Tabernacle Baptist Church for about 23 years now. A little bit about myself and my family background. I myself am Vietnamese. My mom had came over to Canada after the Vietnam War. She was pretty much a Buddhist for all of her life, but it wasn't until my eldest brother, who got saved first at a church camp, came home and witnessed to her, and then shortly after that, she became a Christian. And she's been our spiritual leader in our family ever since. My father was around, but he wasn't, and he didn't know much about religion. So growing up, it was just pretty much my mom and my eldest brother who were the Christian role model in our home. But anyways, I was in church when I was 8. I went to the Vietnamese church. I knew a little bit about the Bible stories, but I've never heard of the gospel before. But it wasn't until I was about between 10 and 11 that the Vietnamese church bus had broken down, and I didn't attend church for about 3 to 4 weeks. And so finally my mom's like, you know what, you kids got to go to church. So basically she dragged both of my sister and myself to the church down the street, and the church down the street was CTBC, because I used to live up the block. And so after the first time I went to CTBC, I was greeted by Mrs. Davis, and then she introduced me to my Sunday school teacher at the time, who was Mrs. Rogers. And then after shortly attending, she explained to me the gospel. I understood the gospel, and then so Mrs. Rogers and Pastor Rogers came to my house, told me about Jesus Christ, and it was in my living room that I got saved. And shortly after that year, 1998, I believe, I got baptized. I became a member of CTBC ever since then. So I guess I've been attending this church for about 23 years now. And so this church means a lot to me. I grew up in this church. Growing up, all my friends were from this church. This is where I learned about Christ. This is where I learned about His wisdom. This is a place where He allowed me to serve. And of course, it's like anything when you're in high school. I started off very small. I started off just being the guy in the back that, at the time we put in CD players, and all we had to do was press down for the PowerPoint. And that was my first service for God, or for the church. And then shortly after that, I leveled up. I became an assistant singer. Even though I'm not much of a singer, God says, is there anywhere you got to serve? You just got to start somewhere. And so I became the assistant singer. And then shortly after that, I became I helped lead singing. I was the substitute song leader. And then after that, I somehow managed to become one of the song leaders. And at the time, and also, I also volunteered to become a Sunday school teacher. And so, like I said, between grade 8 to about grade 12, after grade 12 graduation, I knew that I wanted to serve God, but I didn't really experience Him in my daily walk. And so as you being a Sunday school teacher, if you've never really experienced God, it's very hard for you to teach life lessons that you haven't applied first yourself. So I remember at the time when I was my first lesson of teaching Sunday school, I pretty much wrote like a 3 to 4 page essay, and pretty much my lesson was just reading the script. And after about 10 minutes of reading the script, I was done, and I didn't know what to do. And that was I thought I was pretty bad. My first lesson was definitely pretty bad. But it was during this time and this moment that I had entered the workforce, and then shortly after that, I found out I had 2 herniated discs. And for a young guy in a very physical labor, that's pretty much like me saying, you got to change your career, Peter, because this is who you're going to be. And it was during that precious moment that God really spoke to me. Like, I was saved. I knew who God was, but I didn't understand and experience His providence and how truly good He was. And so during those 2 years of me being rehabbing, that I really got to see God. And then so my everything changed from that moment forward. My lessons became different. My mannerism became different. Even sometimes when I speak, I feel truly it's not me. It's the Holy Spirit who speaks through me. And it was through me serving at Chinese Tabernacle Baptist Church that I was able to experience God's power. And I tasted and seen that the Lord is good. So at CTBC, this is my home. And this is where I grew up. And in fact, I know when I got married, I got married in Hawaii, and one of the options when you're picking how you want to get married is pretty much you get to choose like from a list of ministers and pastors who would marry you. And even at the time, I'm like, no, like this is who I am, as in this is the Chinese Tabernacle was so important to me that I couldn't imagine anyone else marrying me besides Pastor Davis. So Pastor Davis, obviously awesome, my spiritual male role model, and he actually flew, him and his family, Mrs. Davis, Shanna, JJ, Ben was there, Jenny was there, and they flew to my wedding. And I remember at the time, it was super hot out. I was pouring down sweat as I was waiting for Felicia, and Pastor was just pouring down sweat too, but he came to my wedding. I just a little picture of here, just wanted to show you. Must have been about 40 degrees out, but Pastor's a trooper. He was there. And so you could say that Chinese Tabernacle it played a very, very, very important role in my life. Everything I did from when I was early on to here, my memories, all the good memories came from CTBC. And so I urge you guys to take it seriously when it comes to going to church, and be super thankful that God has provided with us with such an awesome home. And growing up, I mean, I couldn't imagine growing up any other way. And so I pray and I hope that my kids will grow up here the same way I grew up, and they'll learn to love God at CTBC. And I pray that my kids will also be in church at CTBC. And so I would just like to leave that final thought with you guys, is that really take church seriously. Really learn to love your church. Many people through my life have gone and passed, and they've asked me, how come you've always just kept continuing to stay at CTBC? And my only response is, if you learned and you tasted something that's so good and so real, could you ever leave anywhere elsewhere? And so even though I know many other people have left in the past, God has just given me such a deep conviction to keep coming here, to keep serving here, and to keep loving here. And He's giving me even greater visions of how I can do more in the church. And so I just like to encourage you guys to love CTBC, love the church, love each other, and please continue to keep coming. And I'm excited to continue to serve and worship here with you guys as we keep pushing further and further closer to God. So anyways, that's just a little bit of myself. Feel free to reach out if you ever want to talk to me. I love sharing stories about how God has impacted my life and how He could do the same for you. Anyways, thank you very much. Bye.